Hello, I'm Bob Matheny, Mayor of the town of Zebulon, and this is, of course, the Zebulon's Mayor Show. We're in kind of a different place here today. I'm in the radio room down at Emergency Medical Services on Vance Street, and we're going to talk about emergency medical services in just a few minutes. But first, I wanted to fill you in on the work session that we had in the month of July that was not filmed for this station. It was not a very long agenda, but I thought a very interesting one. We first took a look at the Highway 96 corridor study, which is the engineering report for development along Highway 96 up through Wakefield area. And the reason for that is to plan for future growth and figure what would be needed to handle the traffic up in that area as we continue to grow up there. Anyone interested in seeing that report, there's a copy at Town Hall, and you're more than welcome to come by and ask to see a copy. Just go to the planning department and tell them that's what you want to see, is the 96 corridor study or report. You might find it interesting, but it talks about access and turn lanes and things of that nature. So if you're into that sort of thing, help yourself. The next item that we had was something I'm very proud of. Emily Lucas, our finance director, and that finance department had received an award for the comprehensive annual financial report. And I think this is like the 16th, 17th, 18th year, I'm not exactly sure, that they've received this, but it's really an honor to receive this award. It is for Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, and it's awarded by the Government Finance Officers Association, and I believe that is for both the United States and Canada. So we're very proud of them, and they deserve honors and accolades for receiving this report, because it's not just freely given away. It shows that they truly are superb in what they do for you, the citizens, and for the town of Zebulon. Okay, we then had a request from the Shiloh Temple, which is just recently located over on West Horton Street. And what they requested that we do is close West Horton Street, basically from Church Street all the way over to Wakefield Street all day for them to hold a street festival. And they wanted it closed from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening. We chose not to allow that. It is a public street. And the police chief and the fire chief both had real concerns about us being able to come in there in the event of an emergency. The fire department getting their trucks in there. There's like 10 homes that would not have access to their homes during that day. So just simply because it was a public street, it was a residential district, and there seemed to be a myriad of problems, we decided not to allow them to do that. We did offer some alternatives to them, and I hope they're able to work something out, because it certainly was no reflection on the church whatsoever. It was just a safety and convenience issue for our citizens. We then had a grant funding of $17,160 that we had not received that prior to adopting the budget, but that grant was received and allocated, appropriated for Parks and Recreation to do phase 2 of the walking trail down at the community park. So that will be underway before too long, and what that is if you've been down to the community park, you've noticed that there is a sidewalk that surrounds one of the ball fields down there. Well, there's going to be one that goes through part of the disc golf course that will add to the walkability of the park. And then next year there will be phase 3 that will go even further than that. So we're doing it in phases. It's not your tax dollars in the sense that it's coming out of Zebulon's ad valorem tax money. It is grant money that's coming to the town. So we simply receive the money, roll it over for that project. We then had the police department had requested some modifications to our civil citation ordinance. The civil citation ordinance is one that was adopted by the town for the purpose of handling small violations to various ordinances within the town, such as parking violations, noise violations, things of that nature. But that money, any money received like that is actually allocated to go to the school systems. Well, we had specific ordinances to the town itself that we removed from that and put it where that money, if you're given one of those tickets, you come before our people, you pay the fine, and the fine money stays with the town of Zebulon, which is very common practice done throughout the state. So there were several items: property, picketing, peddlers, privilege license violations, noise violations, animal violations, parking violations, these sort of things. They were removed from the state statute, so not from the state statute, but they were removed as a criminal citation, and they will be handled as a civil citation within the town. The good news is that, the bad news is you get one of these tickets. The good news is that if you do, it is a civil violation in town, and you don't have to pay court costs. Now, there may be a fine involved, but usually, well, not usually, the fine is always less than your fine plus court costs if you were written a ticket and had to go to court in Raleigh. So anyway, those modifications were made by the board. And that was pretty much that meeting. If you have any questions about any of this, I'll be happy to answer it, as will any of our staff. Feel free to contact us. Well, as I told you earlier, we're at the Eastern Wake or Zebulon EMS station, and we're going to talk about EMS, so we'll be back in just a minute. All right, we're back. We're still in the Zebulon EMS building. Join me is Garland Tant. Garland, Director of East Wake EMS.
Yes, sir.
All right. Glad to have you here, and I hope we have some information that's useful to our citizens. Garland, as I said, you're the director, and you've been here how long? Maybe just kind of give us a thumbnail sketch of how you came to be in this position.
I started as a volunteer EMT in 1987. I was a senior in high school, and one of the last high school students that they put on the department at the point in time. Went and got my EMT and then my intermediate, and became chief in 1991, and I've been chief since. When we did the mergers back in 2005, I was chosen to be the director of the agency.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I mean, I've had the opportunity to work with you now, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But it is a pleasure to be here, and we certainly appreciate the service that Eastern Wake EMS provides. Let's talk a little bit about the history. I know it goes way back to where we had the Zebulon Area Rescue Squad. We had the Wendell Rescue Squad and Knightdale. Was it just Knightdale Rescue?
Knightdale Rescue Squad.
Just called Knightdale Rescue. Those were formed back in the 70s, I believe. At least Zebulon was.
Yep. Wendell was the first. They were back in the early 60s.
They were, and then we were formed in the 70s. Knightdale, I'm not sure about, and that's fine. But there were 3 separate functioning rescue squads
That's correct.
At that time, and they were actually rescued. Now, how did they come to merge, which they did in, I believe it was 2005?
That's correct.
Right. How did it come about that they merged into one unit?
What happened was with budget cuts that we had experienced with the counties throughout the years, and at the point in time we were only getting a subsidy of $54,000 a year,
Right.
and we were supplemented by volunteers, and that's predominantly who run the college. You had some paid employees during the daytime. But as call volume continued to increase and the amount of training that you had to have to keep your certification increased, it became more and more increasingly difficult for a volunteer to do it.
Right.
So we looked at combining the 3 departments together due to the budget cuts. And when we started looking at it, it made sense. We were able to do away with some of the reproduction services that we were paying for during the daytime, combine our assets together, and provide our service to the Zebulon, Wendell, and Knightdale communities, keeping the same level of service that we had, still keeping the volunteers, but doing away with some of the additional costs.
Okay, and in 2008, Roseville came on board.
That's correct.
So what you have now are the combined operations of Knightdale, Wendell, Zebulon, and Roseville.
That's correct.
As Eastern Wake EMS. Well, you know, back in my day, it was rescue squad.
Right.
Today, it's emergency medical services. So let's talk about what happened to rescue, if you'll kind of tell us where that went.
When I got on the department, we provided rescue just like when you were on. We had the crash truck, which provided a hearse tool, the jaws of life. We provided boats, dragging services, etc. But it became more and more tasking to be able to do it when you're trying to provide EMS and then provide rescue with the limited number of personnel that you had. Also, but it came with a rescue standard that was required, and it was a 2-year college or 2-year certification that you had to have a rescue cert to be able to run the rescue truck and the boats. Right. And at that point in time, a lot of our folks did not have the time as being volunteers to go back to school for 2 years to meet the standard. Right. So that's how we ended up getting out of that department. Right. And luckily at the point in time, the fire department was willing to take that task on, and that's where it lies today, and they handle that for us.
Well, a lot of people may not realize that the fire department in joint functions with EMS are first responders. Yes. And let's talk about that just a little bit and what skills they bring to the scene.
The fire department in Zebulon is first responders. They are a great asset to us. They're generally the first ones there on the scene. They can provide basic first aid, defibrillation, which is critical in cardiac arrest. There are certain medications that they can provide at the EMT level as well. They are a huge asset to EMS and what we do. A lot of times we get credit for saving folks, but in reality it's your first responders, with them being there as quickly as they are. Sometimes, even though we're side by side, we may go out together, but there are times that we have a unit coming from another area with a prolonged response time. It's the fire department that gets there before we do.
And just to be definitive here, first responder is to all incidents or only certain incidents? On
certain incidents, they are dispatched to all cardiac arrest, respiratory, chest pain type calls, anything that is appears to be a life-threatening in all accident.
Right, right. And you respond to fire calls.
That is correct. and that's where the roles are reversed. When we respond to fire calls, we are responding, obviously if there's a patient in there, that's our primary responsibility, but we send 2 trucks to fire calls now. One truck is dedicated for the fire department for nothing but rehab of those firemen. And they are there to monitor their blood pressure, their vital signs, to make sure the safety of the fire department is met. And then there's one crew that is there for transport purposes.
Okay. All right. Well, we are in the meeting room of the EMS station here in Zebulon, and behind me, just earlier I was in the radio room, and then behind that, Garland, you tell us what's there.
Behind here we have 2 bedrooms. We have bedroom ones. We try to, because we do run men and women, we try to keep them separated, so we have 1 bedroom for the men's and 1 for the women. And then in here is a full bathroom and shower.
So you actually have 3 bedrooms, I think.
Correct. There are times that we have.
We need to go to all of them, by the way.
We run 3 bedrooms here because we do still have volunteers. And even though volunteers today do not ride primarily on the truck as a second person, they come on as third person, they get their training, and once they get their training and they get up to speed with where they need to be, then they apply for part-time and obviously full-time employment.
Okay, we're going to jump over now to the kitchen area and take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay, we have moved over to the kitchen area. Garland's going to cook for us in just a minute.
Yep.
So, but no, we're in the kitchen area, and adjacent to that is the day room where the responders hang out when they're waiting on a call or whatever. But nonetheless, just wanted you to get an idea of what's here. What I want to talk about just a minute, Garland, is the East Wake EMS Board of Directors and the relationship with the county. Let's just talk about the Board of Directors first. How many are on the board? Most people don't know I am on the board, but I'm not the Lone Ranger. So.
Yeah. We are, the Board of Directors for Eastern Wake EMS is made up of 7 board members from outside the area. We have no internal board members on the department. And the board consists of, it has to have 1 board member from the town of Zebulon, 1 from the town of Wendell, Knottdale, and the town of Roseville. We have 1 CPA or equivalent to a CPA on our board, And then the other board members can come from any of the other community, or any of the other 4 communities. So sometimes you have one community with 2 reps. The board of directors serve max of 4-year terms. They serve 2-year terms and then can be re-elected for a second term with a max of 4 years.
And what's the responsibilities of the board?
The board of directors for our department is fully responsible of all financial aspects of our department. They make all financial decisions. They are in charge of policies and procedures for the employees, the employee handbook manual, and we meet on a quarterly basis. Then during the budget seasons, we'll meet a couple other times until we get our budget approved.
Well, a lot of people would think that this is a part of, and it is part of the county's operations, but it is separate from the county. And let's explain how that relationship is.
That is correct. Eastern Wake EMS is a private nonprofit organization that is supported by the board of directors. We have a contract with Wake County to provide emergency medical services to the Zebulon, Wendell, Knightdale, and Roseville area. We operate under that contract. By law, EMS is a county responsibility.
Right.
So the county allows us to be able to provide the service to the citizens that we serve.
And that means that the employees are employees of?
Yeah, the employees are employees of the nonprofit organization. They are not county employees. They have chose to work for the nonprofit. They have chose to work for the smaller communities that are out here versus going to work with the county.
And how many employees do you have?
We currently, full-time employees, we have 42 full-time employees currently. We have approximately 30 part-time employees and approximately 15 volunteers.
Right. It's grown quite a bit since
Yes.
my days. Sure has. And let's talk about the funding. You mentioned the county, but the county, well, let you tell us.
We have, throughout the years, we've been funded various ways from the county. Today, we're funded under what's called cost-based budgeting with Wake County. We submit our budgets to the county and to our board of directors. Once the county approves our budget, and then our board approves the budget, then the county provides that money on 12 equal payments to the department. Currently, our budget's right at $4.1 million.
Okay. Well, it's like I say, it's a big deal. It's
Yes.
a lot more, and in that we mentioned all 4 communities, but there are, I think, only 4 stations.
Well, we actually have 5. We have we have a main station in each of the areas: Zebulon, Wendell, Knightdale, and Roseville. We run one out of Bethany Church with the Wendell Fire Department, Wendell Fire Station 2 on Bethany Church Road, and we also run a truck out of Pool Road with the Eastern Wake Fire Department. Over off Clifton.
That's the one I was missing. Okay, well, thank you. All right, we're going to move on out into the Bay Area, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the EMS. Okay, we're out in the Bay Area where the trucks and where the vehicles are normally parked, and we're going to talk about this area and some work that's going to happen around here. First, let's talk about the cost of an average call. Garland, if you go to someone's house and have to carry them to a hospital, is there a difference based on what their illness is or what services you have to provide?
There are 2 prices. There's an ALS-1 and an ALS-2. ALS-1 is if we transport you and IV O2 monitor and push a med, but if we have to push multiple meds, it's considered an ALS-2 call.
Okay.
An ambulance call can go anywhere between $500 right on up to $650.
Right. I know, well, I've had, most people probably don't know this, but I've had a little AFib problem and had to have y'all take me, and that's generally the range that it fell into. But you know, I have insurance, but aside from that, I have another plan that's sponsored by Wake County.
Right.
Tell us about that. People might be interested in that.
It's the $60 membership fee. The fee has been around for the last 15, 17 years that we've been doing it in Wake County. And you pay $60 membership fee into it, and it covers you and the people that live within your family for an entire year for ambulance service. So for instance, if we transport you, you have insurance. Insurance typically doesn't pay 100% of an ambulance bill. So if your bill's $500 and insurance pays $300, you have a $200 balance. By paying a $60 membership, the $200 is written off. It's like co-insurance, as I tell folks. And it's a big advantage. There's a lot of folks that don't take advantage of it within the county. And I think it's just because a lot of folks don't understand the program or don't know about the program.
Well, I have taken advantage of it for several years. Fortunately, I haven't had to use it much, but nonetheless, to me, it's just a no-brainer to do it. And that covers every one of your family within that household, that one fee.
That is correct.
So if you have 9 kids, it's
Covers
60,
all 9 of them.
It's not 60 per person, it's 60 per household.
That is correct.
So let's suppose somebody's interested in participating in that, and they want to know how to, where do they go?
There's a couple places. They can go to our website at www.easternwakeems.com, and on there's the brochure that they can pull off and print and send off. They can go to the county's website, and on the county's website they have the brochure that's available, or they can contact us at the EMS facility. Our non-emergency number is 919-365-1601, and they can request a brochure, and we'll be glad to send it out to them.
Okay, well, it is a good program. I hope people are interested in it, and I believe the county sends out a mailer every year on it.
That is correct. It runs from September 1st through the end of August, so it'll be starting soon.
Well, you've been in this station now since back in the 80s?
I started in '87. The department started here in 1974.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have this when we
Originally.
Originally, we did not. A lot of people may not realize that I was the first chief, captain, whatever. We were called captains back then.
Captains.
Of the Zebulon area rescue squad. But this building came along. It was formerly the dry cleaners owned by Worth Hinton, and it was acquired by rescue and moved in here, modified it, and you've been here ever since. We're fixing to do some upgrading here, and I'll let you just explain what we're hoping, or well, not just hoping, it is going to happen now.
We hadn't done any upgrades or anything to this facility in the last 10 to 12 years. There was money appropriated by the county to renovate this facility back when the HERE study was done. We forwent that money because at the point in time it was on the books this facility was supposed to have been replaced within a 3 to 5 year period. And as things happened with the county and as time went on, this facility was never replaced. And at this point in time in EMS, we look at how can you reduce the cost of taxpayer dollars. So we look at doing a lot of co-locations with the fire departments, like we're co-located with the Knightdale Public Safety. We're co-located at Bethany Church and also co-located with Eastern Wake Fire Department.
Right. Well, the work that's going to be done here, as you sort of touched on it, you've co-located with other fire departments, and we've had some conversation about co-locating with the Zebulon Fire Department. If and when, well, not if, but when we build a facility. The plans are there to build a facility north of town, but we're probably 6, 7, 8 years out now, especially considering flat economy. That may or may not happen, meaning that the co-location may or may not happen. So what's going to happen here? What kind of work are we looking at?
The biggest thing we have a lot of problems with flooding here when we get heavy rains or during hurricanes, etc. So one of the first things that's going to be done is the roof's going to be replaced on this building. They're going to put a new metal roof on it and repair hopefully get the water coming from inside the building fixed and the drainage fixed on this organization, this building. The other thing we're going to do is up here in this bay area that he's panning, we're going to put a drop ceiling in here. It's fairly decent today, but most days when it's really hot outside, this bay is really hot, which means the ambulances get really hot in here as well in the back. It also costs a lot of money during the cold months to try to heat this bay. So they're going to put a drop ceiling with insulation in to try to help us heat and cool this bay a little bit better.
Right. Okay. And we might add that in the other rooms where we were, there'll be different work done, painting, kitchen upgrades, floor and some new carpet put in some of the areas. So, fairly extensive, paid for jointly by Wake County and by Eastern Wake EMS. So there's certain things that the county will take care of, certain things that we will take care of.
That is correct. So, we're doing it as a joint venture.
We look forward to that. I know that the people that work here very much look forward to it.
Yep.
So, well, let's talk for a minute about if somebody really needs some help, how do they get in touch with you? I think it's pretty much a no-brainer, but you can't say it enough.
Call 911. We have a lot of folks that will actually drive to the facilities. And what will happen the day the crew happens to be here at this point in time as we're speaking, but we average about 30 calls a day. And our trucks are not here a lot because they're out on calls, and a lot of times someone will come to the EMS facility looking for help and there won't be anyone here. And that's just a delay to get them additional help at that point in time. So we tell folks all the time, please call 911 and let us come to you versus you trying to come to us.
Right, okay. All right, let's suppose somebody just has a question that's not necessarily an emergency, but maybe there's some information they need or well, just questions. What do they do?
They can, like I said, call a non-emergency number, 919-365-1601. They could ask to speak to myself. Eddie Ross is our operations chief. Tina Como is our training chief, or they can speak to our executive secretary, Kim Lazenby, and they will be more than glad to help and give you any information they need.
And I might add at that point, Garland, that you're located, the central office is located adjacent to the Wendell.
That is correct, on 3rd Street.
Do you call that the Eagle Building? Is that?
That is where Ed Morrell owns that building
Right.
with Mortex.
Right.
And they call it the Eagle Building because that's the brand of
Right.
shirts that they have
Right,
coming
and that's
out
what's
there.
on the outside
So
of the
that's what's on
building.
the outside
Exactly.
of it. So
But
that's
anyway,
where we're located.
It's on that street adjacent to the Wendell station
Right.
over there upstairs.
That's correct.
So if you wanted to go by there, just go upstairs and knock on the door.
And there's a lot of information they can get on our webpage.
Right, I understand. Okay. Well, we've talked about county funding coming in, but I think you also do make an effort on private funding.
Yes, for special projects, we try to do a picture fundraiser. We haven't done one in a couple of years, but I'm looking at doing one this year. One of the projects we're looking at doing is trying to buy some stretchers. Workers' comp, the biggest injury that you have in this business is back injuries. And it's called a power stretcher that's been out on the market for numerous years, and we have one, but we'd like to acquire additional power stretchers. The power stretcher, and along with the stair chair that comes with it, they run about $14,000 a piece. And we like to purchase more. It changes the way that you do it, but it's battery powered by a DeWalt battery, and you push a button and the stretcher comes up and it goes down, which takes the need away of the lifting. And reduces back injuries in the long term. So that's
when do
something
you expect this to come up?
we are probably looking at starting this fundraiser within the next 2 to 3 months. We always try to do portraits for Christmas. A lot of folks like those, and then some folks like them for spring.
Okay. All right. Well, folks, we tried to cover some useful information for you. And Garland, again, thank you very much for being here today and showing us around. I hope you find this information useful. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or staff a call at Town Hall or Garland a call at Eastern Wake EMS. So we thank you for watching.